Department?
There is more racism in the Justice Department than there is in any, than anywhere I see in St. Louis area.
The Republican Lieutenant Governor of Missouri, there with our own Steve Malzberg on Newsmax TV, saying there is more racism in the Justice Department than there is in Ferguson, Missouri. His comments coming as Ferguson remains a hotbed of racial unrest.
Now, with police now denying claims they beat up shooting suspect Jeffrey Williams. Let's bring in our next guest, Timothy Jones, former Speaker of the House of the Representatives in Missouri. Thanks so much for joining us here on America's Forum.
And Mr. Speaker,
Good morning, Miranda. Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for having me.
It is great to have you, Mr. Speaker, as you join us from Newsmax, Washington. Do you agree with the assessment of the Lieutenant Governor?
You know, I absolutely do. Peter Kinder and I worked very closely on the Ferguson issue when I was still in office. I just termed out in January of this year, and we continue to be close allies on this issue. You know, my issue with the Attorney General is he has not found a police department of which he approves. He has done, I think, 15 or 16 investigations, and every single one has come up with basically the same conclusion. The police are bad, the departments need to be punished, and the federal government can do a much better job at local law enforcement than the local folks. And it's just a conclusion that not only conservatives disagree with, but I think common sense people across the spectrum do not believe the federal government can do better local policing than local police departments. There needs to be some accountability in Ferguson, that's for sure. But it's up to the people of that community and that locality to determine what course their police department needs to go in next.
Well, some have gone as far as actually blaming Eric Holder for part of the problems and even going so boldly as blaming him for some of the shootings that have occurred. Do you agree with that?
You know, Miranda, it's an interesting conclusion to reach, and I think folks can see that there are some facts that do back that up. Ferguson has been plagued by outside influences. The records are replete with the fact that most of the arrests that have been made of the non-peaceful protesters, of the agitators, are not only not from Ferguson, but they're not even from the St. Louis region or even the state of Missouri. So, you know, we've seen reports that our favorite left-wing billionaire, George Soros, has funneled millions of dollars into the Ferguson region to promote the agitation, to promote the unrest. And it seems that Eric Holder seems to go hand in hand with these types of protests. Every time they flame up, every time the president or the attorney general seems to make a statement, the unrest and the fires of these flames are stoked. When the national news media, mainly the old media, when the attorney general, when the president go away, the community starts to heal itself. But every time they come back in, the wounds are reopened and the community is not allowed to move forward.
Which prompts this next question, Tim, and that is, there's an attorney general designate waiting in the wings. The vote has not been held in the United States Senate on the confirmation of Loretta Lynch. We hear from our president that if that action's not taken, Eric Holder remains. With that being the case, do you want to see the Senate go ahead and confirm Loretta Lynch? We've got about a minute, 15 seconds remaining.
You know, Congressman, great question, and I think we're trying to decide which is going to be worse for the country, for Ferguson, the current Attorney General, or sort of the unknown entity of Loretta Lynch. I think there's more that's unknown about her than known. You know, are you better with the problems you have or with the problems you don't know yet about? So I think there's some great concern there. This all goes to the bigger global issue that we've been confronting for the past 6+ years. Bigger government coming in trying to solve local problems does not seem to make the problems better, but only seems to make the conflicts worse. And that's what we've had in Ferguson.
Just 20 seconds. Got to ask you, you were termed out of the State House in Missouri. You're in Washington. What are your ambitions, Tim Jones?
Well, just like you, Congressman, I've gotten into some local political media of my own, working on a lot of issues relating to tax policy reform and education reform. I don't know if I've got that political elected bug out of me. You probably don't either. But for now, I'm going to stay on this side of the camera and help be another good common sense voice like you and Miranda on the airwaves across Missouri and the Midwest.
Fair enough. Tim Jones, we thank you for your time, and Hour 3 of America's Forum is straight ahead.